The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was released in 2014 and stars Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Jamie Foxx. And in this movie, Peter is embracing being Spider-Man, but now he will face his toughest battle yet with supervillains and with personal problems. Alright guys, so I'm continuing with the Spider-Man franchise. I'm almost done. I got this movie, then I can finally start in the MCU Spider-Verse. But for now, I need to finish up Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man verse, and yeah, I'm not that happy about it. Let me get into the positives here. Okay, so the action is fantastic. And not to mention the swinging, like Spider-Man swinging across New York City. This is easily the best swinging I've ever seen in any Spider-Man film. And you can quote me on that. Seriously, they thought of angles I never thought of. I mean, even the beginning when he's like kind of skydiving a little bit, he's free falling. That is so freaking cool. And not to mention swinging through New York, it's so crisp, it's so smooth, he's having fun. Not to mention they have POV swinging shots. I never even thought I'd see something like that. And that was so cool, and they gave it to us. Another huge positive, and for some reason this is controversial, is Andrew Garfield. He was so good as Spider-Man. You know, I don't think people give him enough credit. Look, he was never going to live up to Tobey Maguire, but he really was a good Spider-Man, and I think they build up on his character a lot, especially in this movie. Look, Spider-Man is not just about facing off Rhino in the streets and, you know, stopping these little nuclear weapons and all these genetic stuff, you know. Sometimes he's about the people. And they show that in a little compilation where he's just saving people and he's saving everybody. He saves this little kid from bullies and he talks about his science project. He walks that kid home. That's what Spider-Man is all about. That's what kind of differentiates him from the rest of the pack of superheroes, because he lays low. He's to the ground. He's for the people. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And you know, to kind of build up on that for another positive, man, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's chemistry is just off the charts. It's so much better in this movie. It's really refreshing, because sometimes in comics and in movies, you know, it's always like the superhero wants to be with the girl, but then something always gets in the way, or the hero gets in his own way, and that kind of shows in this movie. But at the end of the day, you know, they go for it. They really want this relationship to work. I think the audience wanted this relationship to work. I felt for these characters. I love these characters, and I wanted it to work. One small thing that I liked involving Electro, and I'll talk about Electro in my negatives, but one positive that I liked, man, they used his powers incredibly well. The use of music in this movie, especially with Electro, was so satisfying. I mean, you kind of got like an Edgar Wright thing where they're matching the action with the music, which I really liked, and it just made it so much cooler. It made you more engaged with the action because it added a little oomph of excitement, and that's what makes it so much better. Alright, so I tried my best to come up with positives. Now I gotta get to the negatives. Why are there so many story arcs in this movie? Did you not learn from Spider-Man 3? What is going on? What plagued Spider-Man 3 is that they had too many villains and they had too many storylines, and not to mention they ruined a lot of characters, you know, from the second movie. Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was like deja vu all over again. Seriously, with all the story arcs with Peter and Gwen, with Peter trying to find out about what happened with his parents, with Rhino, with the Goblin story arc, you know, with Electro, with all this stuff going on, you're just like, stop! That's too much, just stop! It's just, how did they not learn? You would think to keep it simple, just keep it to one villain. Yeah, maybe have another villain to set up for the final movie, but just keep it simple. You know, when you have too much going on, especially with that, like, it's not like Spider-Man PS4 where you have like 20 to 30 hours of gameplay to kind of flesh out all these storylines. No, this is like a 2-hour movie. You can only do so much, and it really hurt them in the end. Okay, and another negative, I really didn't want to say this, but man, Jamie Foxx's Electro, what a disappointment. Now, here's what I'll say. You know, the reports of Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro, I am so excited, because Jamie Foxx is a great actor, Academy Award-winning actor. He is fantastic at what he does. He's a great storyteller. It's just that the lines they gave him, the direction they gave him, it just didn't work for me.
That's what the press needs. They should call you the Amazing Spider-Man.
Get it? Because the name of the movie is Amazing Spider-Man. Oh god, and another negative, and I have no problem saying this, what was Paul Giamatti doing as Rhino?
Say hello to Alexei Sinzevich!
Why would you cast Paul Giamatti as Rhino? Like, I would never thought, when you look at Rhino, this, you know, this kind of like juggernaut type of character who just like runs at you because he's a rhino, and he's, you know, not really the smartest. They thought, hey, you know what? Let's get the guy who played John Adams. Why? That makes no sense. What are y'all doing, Amazing Spider-Man 2? And look, Paul Giamatti's a fantastic actor, but the direction they gave him, the look of Rhino, it was all just disgusting, atrocious. I wanted to puke every time he was on screen. Yeah, I did not enjoy his presence in this movie. Okay, this is another negative, and I don't care what people say, because people apparently love the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. You know what? It's a negative for me. I didn't like the suit in this movie. I don't care. Y'all can come at me in the comments. I really don't care. The Amazing Spider-Man, the original suit that they had, it looked unique. I don't care what people say. It looked cool. It looked different. It matched the universe. When you have that, it didn't work for me. It kind of looked like a suit I could get at Party City, so I'm sorry. It just didn't work. I didn't like it. Why would you do that? I don't know, maybe because the audience didn't like it, so they're like, okay, we got to change it, but you know what, I disagree. I think they should have stuck to their guns and kept the original suit, because I thought it looked super cool. Okay, so another negative, and I definitely need to talk about the Goblin story arc that they introduced in this movie, because the problem is, it's way too many villains. It's too much too soon. I like the introduction of Harry Osborn. I really like the dynamic between him and Peter. It was like, yeah, they're friends, but you could still feel that dynamic, that, you know, that stereotypical dynamic of, hey, you're rich, you have more money than me. And then Harry's like, hey, but you had a better childhood and your parents actually love you. And it's like, it's like that awkward dynamic. I didn't really believe that they were best friends. You know, when Peter says at the end, like, I gotta help him, he's my best pal. I'm just like, I mean, is he? You hadn't seen him in like over a decade, you know what I mean? So how are y'all best friends? I just never got that vibe from them. I never, you know, when he finally becomes the Goblin and like Peter's like kind of sad about it, I'm just like, I didn't believe it, because they hadn't been together on screen enough. You know, in the original trilogy, it took time. It took over 3 movies for him to become the Goblin, which is why it worked. You kind of felt that emotion. But with this, you did everything the original trilogy did, which took 3 movies, into 1 movie, and it only took like 30 minutes for him to become the Goblin. So it was too much too soon. All right, so let's talk about the ending real quick. Okay, so the way Electro goes, you know, it's like you overcharge a battery, that's fine. But the way he went out, just like no last dialogue, nothing, he just went out like that, like pretty easily. It just felt like a second-rate villain, and that's unfortunate, because I thought with how Electro was, you know, with him being the super obsessed fan of him, you know, it already wasn't working, but I think he should have gotten a better ending than that, than just simply being overcharged and turning to dust. I think he deserved better. However, when you finally beat Electro and everything's fine, everything's happy, then you hear the Goblin come, and I think his laugh sums it up.
Go and stay there.
What is that? You know what he sounds like? He sounds like a guy who hasn't laughed in like 50 years, and then he finally lets one out. It's like, it's so awkward. Like, it's not menacing. It sounds creepy, and not in a good way, you know? So he becomes the Goblin, and him and Peter are having a fight. And, you know, while that happens, you get the famous Gwen Stacy death. Probably the biggest Spider-Man moment in any Spider-Man comic. And when it happened, you're upset because you care about these characters. But it's just, when you think about it, it's like, this movie didn't earn that ending. You know, I think it was too soon. They should have waited at least for the next movie if there was one. But you do all that, all this just bunched up into one movie, it just didn't work. You're just exhausted by the end of it, because it's just, you had to deal with Electro, then you had to deal with the Goblin, now Gwen dies. It's just, oh. And the movie doesn't even end there. How it ends is that Peter mourns, he goes through an entire mourning period, which should take like years, and he gets it done in like months. Then freaking Paul Giamatti returns as Rhino, and the stupid kid comes in front wearing his Spider-Man outfit. He's like, I'm gonna take down the Rhino. And then Peter comes back as Spider-Man. He's like, cool. He's like, okay guys, you know, I'll come out of retirement. And it ends like that. It's unfortunate that this is how Andrew Garfield Spider-Man ended, but with the rumors going on about him and Tobey possibly joining Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe, I think, you know, I'm really hoping that he gets the proper send-off he deserves, because he's a fantastic Spider-Man. He's not the best Spider-Man, but man, he put up a good performance with what he had. I think if he had a better script, better direction, I think the Amazing Spider-Man movies would have been a lot better. But for this movie, way too many problems. I'm going to have to give it a D+. It's just, I didn't want to. I tried so hard to like it, but I just didn't. It's just terrible, and it's not great. Ugh. Can we play the Goblin Laugh again? That kind of cheers me up. Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.